I never imagined how far curiosity could take me. It started with a restless thought, one that danced in my mind longer than it should have. For weeks, I felt an ache deep inside me, a craving for something different, something wild and unfiltered. My life had been safe for too long. Predictable days, polite conversations, and a marriage that had slipped into routine. My name is Vanessa Miller. I'm 36 years old, married to James for over a decade. He's a good man, hardworking, calm, and loyal. But sometimes, even the best foundations can start to feel like a cage when the fire inside you wants to burn brighter. It was a quiet Thursday night when the idea took root. James was working late again, and I sat on the couch with a glass of red wine in my hand, scrolling through old photos on my phone. Pictures from college, beach trips with friends, and nights out where I danced like no one was watching. I missed that version of me. The carefree, daring girl who didn't ask for permission to feel alive. A message popped up on my phone. It was from Caleb, an old friend of mine from my college theater days. He had always been a bit of a flirt, and while nothing ever happened between us, there was always tension. We caught up, joked a bit, and when I mentioned feeling a little trapped in my life, his response wasn't surprising. Maybe you just need to let go. Just once. Really let go. I don't know why it struck me so hard. Maybe because I knew he was right. That night, after the second glass of wine, I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself. Not just at my reflection but into my eyes. I whispered, "What are you so afraid of?" I didn't have an answer. That's when I made the decision. If I was going to break free, I was going all in. I was going to test every limit, explore every boundary, and invite them all. The people from different parts of my life who had unknowingly awakened parts of me I tried to ignore. It wasn't about betrayal. It wasn't about James. It was about me. About rediscovering my power and my choices. I started small. I reconnected with Caleb and invited him to a dinner party I was planning at our lake house for the weekend. Then there was Marcus, my former yoga instructor, who had always looked at me like he saw more than just a student. I sent him an invite too. Next was Dean, James's best friend and business partner. He had always been polite, but behind his eyes, I sensed a buried hunger. The fourth was Jordan, a young, confident guy who delivered to our home often. His casual charm and flirtatious comments stayed in my mind longer than they should have. All four men said yes. That weekend I told James the first needed some time for myself. A getaway to reflect, I said. He didn't ask too many questions. He trusted me, and in that moment that trust felt heavy, almost painful. But I promised myself I wouldn't cross a line I couldn't come back from. Friday afternoon, I arrived at the lake house and lit candles, played soft music, and arranged the table. When Caleb arrived first, I felt a flutter of nerves. He greeted me with a hug that lingered, and his scent, woody and familiar, made my heart skip. "You look amazing, Vanessa," he said. Then came Marcus, his presence grounded and calm, but his eyes glimmered with interest. Dean arrived next, surprised to see the others, but too polite to say anything. And finally Jordan, who walked in with that boyish grin, a six-pack of craft beer in his hands. We sat around the table, sipping wine, sharing stories. I told them I invited them all for a reason. That I wanted to explore parts of myself that had been dormant. I didn't say more than that, just enough to stir their imaginations. The atmosphere grew thicker as the evening went on. We played music louder, danced a little, laughed more. At one point, Marcus led a meditation exercise, and I found myself breathing in deeply, letting go of guilt, of fear, of labels. Later, as the sun dipped into the lake, we moved to the patio. I brought out more wine, and the conversations turned intimate. Caleb shared a story about a reckless trip to Mexico. Jordan talked about a heartbreak that changed him. And Dean finally confessed how often he wondered what it would be like if he had met me first instead of James. I looked at each of them. 4 very different men, each representing something I wanted to feel. Excitement, mystery, healing, danger. I didn't choose between them. Chose the feeling. The boldness. I told them I wasn't looking for promises. Just moments. One by one they approached me through the night. Not physically but emotionally. They each peeled back a layer of me I had forgotten existed. We sat in pairs under the stars, whispered things we'd never said out loud, touched hands for too long, and leaned closer than usual. But every moment had its boundary, every glance had its pause. I wasn't looking to ruin lives or betray love. I was exploring myself with honesty. At some point, I curled up alone on the couch, the fire crackling in the fireplace, and I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Fullness. Not from indulgence but from truth. I had tested my limits. Not by crossing every line but by standing at the edge and seeing who I really was. In the morning they left one by one. Some hugged me longer, some kissed my hand, some simply smiled. No questions, no expectations. When I got back home Sunday night, James greeted me with open arms. He asked if I found what I was looking for. I looked into his eyes and said, "Yes, I found myself again." He didn't need more explanation, and I didn't offer one. Sometimes the journey you take is yours alone to understand. But in that one weekend, I learned more about who I was than I had in years. And I didn't need anyone's permission to be her again.